welcome to Give It a Nudge. This week we have Leo all the way from France. He is here at the moment from the Startup&Angels brand here, and very, very happy to have him actually in the studio because we were trying to work out with him living in France how we're going to do it, but he's here. So Leo, welcome. Great to have you here.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Now, a lot of people here, well, obviously, who watch this show will already know who Startup&Angels are. But before we sort of get into that, let's just get into a little bit of history as to you and where you came from and so forth. So you're obviously accent and living in France, French.
Yes.
Got that covered off straight away. So I guess, what did you do in your sort of early career, and then how did you end up here in Sydney before you went back?
Sure. So I first fell in love with Australia back in 2002. I first came as an international MBA student in Melbourne, and spent 6 months, studied, traveled, did all the a number of experience in Australia, and went back to France, finished my studies, started my career with PwC.
Yep.
Always at the back of my mind, to come back to Australia, and I got lucky enough to come back in 2007 with PwC in Sydney.
Cool.
And I suppose that's when I started like a 15-year cycle in Australia. Had few lives in there, but also came to the realization that one, I feel like I was born an entrepreneur, and two, I was also born to kind of connect people and build bridges between Australia and the rest of the world.
You have that on your LinkedIn profile. I think you have connector. I saw that.
Yeah.
So born to be an entrepreneur, interesting line. Tell me, what was it that we all know what an entrepreneur is, right? But what is it that you felt? What is that feeling inside that said to you, I need to go and start a business. I need to be an entrepreneur? Because everyone has different reasons. Sometimes it's a life event, but you're saying you felt like you were always that way. What was that desire?
The first thing is, to solve problem, I would say, and solve problem I could relate to. The first version of our business, Australians, was really much about helping international professionals start their career in Australia. Or continue their career in Australia, but more on the, expatriation angle. And we had a very B2C model. I came to the realization it was a problem that was not very well addressed, is I was continuously contacted by former colleagues, alumni of my business school, people from other countries, asking me, oh, did you get there? Or did you get there? Can you, review my resume? Can you do all this? So, and that was probably back in 2009, where I said, there are so many people asking me the same questions. There is no such thing as a website, blog that I can send these people to, so there would be a few things around, to help backpackers, for example, definitely a number of education agent, all
that kind of stuff.
But nothing about, really helping international professionals. So the first version, the beta version, that's how pretty much Australians was born.
Yep.
And we obviously pivoted a number of times. So now we are 99.9% B2B. Okay, so we're not selling coaching services anymore.
Just in case anyone starts ringing you after this episode comes out.
Love to jump on our job board and but we're not charging when coaching services anymore, but that's how we started.
Cool. And so now you've got this brand, obviously, Startups&Angels, which everyone knows. So when did that eventuate as your pivot, I guess? When did that sort of focus become?
So that was back in 2016, and so we always with Australians, we always had an eye and heart for entrepreneurs, so we really wanted to help entrepreneurs. And obviously one of the pain points, as an entrepreneur is, potentially, how do I raise money, or do I scale, or do I, potentially connect with investor. And basically we saw, a concept in Europe we really liked, which, was an after work, pretty casual, but giving the opportunity for entrepreneurs to pitch, and for angels, and also the definition of angels is maturing a bit, but I would say anyone can be an angel. And so we started as a nomad event. We didn't have a place.
Yep.
Back in June 2016, so we almost had our 7-year anniversary.
Yeah.
And fast track that, we now have done over 100 events. Like I stopped counting at 100 in 12 countries, 15 capital cities.
You had one last night here in Sydney.
We had one.
Yeah. Did it go well?
Sold out last night.
Sold out. Perfect.
Yeah, it went very, very well. I think I still get a big kick out of those events. Really, see the magic of the connection. And
there was a good vibe there last night, actually. I mean, I wasn't there long, but yeah, there was a lot of energy going in there.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right, so let's talk about Sydney. Let's talk about Startups and Angels and what the different things are that you do. Like you said, the business has obviously emerged from an initially a coaching business, pivot. 7 years now is a long time, right? So what are the sort of main things that someone can expect if they come to your website or contact you, or what are the sort of things that you're very focused on? And we'll talk about what you're maybe going to do in the future as well.
Yes, sure. So, I mean, the first thing is, I would say kind of the value proposition now, where actually event is just one way for us to kind of fulfill this need is, you will access knowledge and network that will help you thrive, with your business.
And that's global, right? That's the key.
That's global. We've got a freemium model, so we've got probably over 1,200 members now, on the platform that have subscribed. A number of them go for the premium option, and the premium option is where our team is actually a bit more hands-on.
Yep.
But just by joining, attending some of the event, listening to our podcast, some of the content we have there, you will increase your knowledge, and whether that's as an entrepreneur, as someone that is a startup enthusiast or a to-be entrepreneur,
Yep.
Network, we've got a number of corporate execs that could be interested to actually invest in a company, maybe one day start a company, but they're sitting on a nice salary, in a nice situation, and they're not sure as to when is the right time, to actually get out of their comfort zone.
There's no right time, right? It's like having children. There is
no right time, and it's not for everyone. I must say, it's not for everyone. So it's often, one of the key messages, I want to say, may look very sexy to be an entrepreneur, but, I'm sure you've
so
been there.
Not sexy
it's
at
so
all.
hard. It's so hard, and, and so you need to be,
Well, you and I make it look sexy. That's what it is.
Exactly, with your hairdresser, yeah.
But no, you're right. I think I've had a lot of conversation, obviously, in what we do. I have a lot of conversations with people who want to go and try and either work in a startup or go and start up a company. And I think even working in a startup is completely different to what people imagine.
Yes.
Being a founder is just another level. Yeah. So it's good that you do that, because there isn't a lot of places people can go if they don't know about startups. I think when, like you and I, when we're in the ecosystem, you forget, you're so in the ecosystem, you kind of forget that if you're not in it, there's actually nowhere you can really look it up. There's sort of no help, particularly not here in Australia. So it's good that you're doing that.
And so having done that, since 2016, also what is interesting is, we went to, obviously Singapore. Next week we've got our, I think, 10th event in Singapore.
Yep.
We've been to a number of emerging markets as well. I think we've run probably the first ever startup event in Cambodia or in Papua New Guinea.
Vietnam has got a big push at the moment as well.
Yeah, so we've run, I think, 3 or 4 events now in Vietnam.
Yep.
And we're about to launch in pretty mature ecosystem in France and the UK this year. And every time, we come very, one, humble, and 2, confident. So every time we open a new city, we always hear, but we already have, this type of event here and there.
Yeah.
We take I think it's a slightly different angle, in the sense that we always have kind of a little bit this international approach, because I think for to run a startup and an angel event in let's say Paris, there is no point for us to do that if it's to match very French focus startup and entrepreneurs. Okay, that already exists. But so when we approach that, we would have companies like some of the unicorns we've helped, come to Australia, for example, Aircall being one of them.
Yep.
Speaking about, how they scale globally, outside of, France, then Europe, then, in the US or, APAC,
Yep.
what was the approach, and vice versa as well, attract, I would say kind of global investor, or, some VCs that, same thing, want to take this approach, investing in global companies
Yep.
who have a global potential. And I think that's a real value we bring to new markets. And I would say, as we have this connector first approach, obviously with also based on value, we pick the client, and that's also very important for us, for the community, to know that, if you're part of this community, you have a number of, I would say, giver first, before to take, and everyone is so helpful with each other,
Yeah.
share their connection and things like this. So, in a way, it's very difficult to kind of always monetize. So that's one of the things we kind of work on is, but there's a very, very strong goodwill, with our brand and our community that, I think we're very proud of.
No, I think you're right, and I think actually I got a question for you. So we've always had a bit of a global feel as well, as you know. You're very much that way. Do you think since the whole COVID scenario that came, there's a greater belief from founders that they can go global? Because I think we all started changing the way we work, and everyone suddenly, I don't know whether it brought the world together. That's probably a little bit far, but I feel that people I meet now who would never have dreamt of maybe launching an office in Asia or the US or the UK or France or wherever, from Australia particularly, now don't see it as such a stumbling block or such a hurdle. Have you seen that change, do you think?
So I would say, COVID, I think for all of us was a big bang, okay? So there'll always be a before and an after.
Of course.
With my Australian hat, what I've observed is, I think, was it like not even 1 year ago we reopened the borders, really?
Was that all it was? Was that only a year ago?
February last year.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
As an Australian, I was on the first plane on the 1st of November 2021, to fly out, but it's actually only been almost a year that, people who are non-Australian resident can come back to the country, okay? And I think everyone was, okay, as soon as we reopen, they will come back, But I remember 1 year ago, the city was, still half empty.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
A number of people were, considering maybe to go back to the office. A number of companies like Atlassian, they were still, don't come to event like the one we had last night, or everyone still work from home and all this. So it took quite a while, and now same thing with my Australian hat. You look at the city these days, it's kind of
pumping.
Yeah, it's completely pumping. There are not enough flats for people to move in.
Yep.
And at the same time, I look in Europe, and in Europe, this Australian dream, at least for the businesses, a number of businesses have been burned. Either they were expanding to Asia Pacific, and they got stuck in Singapore.
Yeah.
Singapore was pretty closed.
Singapore was closed really until only about a month ago.
Australia, was pretty closed. So, they kind of reflected on their expansion. And from what I see in Europe, there is, and there is also obviously the war in Ukraine. There is the recession. There is a number of sustainability angle that maybe Australia is still lacking a little bit behind.
Yeah.
Okay. But I see way less traction or attraction from Europe to Australia, to Asia Pacific.
Interesting.
Okay. At the same time, maybe that there has never been a better time for Australian company or company from Asia Pacific to go in those markets. Okay. The Brexit make it slightly different in terms of go-to-market strategy. Because I think that's the.
It's just made it more complicated.
A bit more complicated. But Europe, I would say, is like looking more at this circular economy thing, but like staying within Europe, there is still a focus of I'm gonna go to the US, raise money, like we have here, yeah. But I would say there is less appetite on the other side to potentially come here.
Interesting.
Or differently.
I didn't know that. That's interesting. All right. Well, let's go back to you guys. So, services you're offering. So we've talked about obviously the knowledge. We've talked about the events. We've talked about your ability to connect them overseas and globally. What other kind of things are you thinking of offering? What's the future sort of hold for you guys? Where do you see yourselves going?
So recently we started our own angel syndicate.
Yep.
So I say that don't all come to us.
I was going to say.
Don't all come to us. We have, in terms of the investment philosophy, maybe I'll talk a little bit about that. I mean, we've got a strong HR tech, ed tech kind of approach.
Yep.
Okay. We also, mainly or only would, invest in companies we can be a beta customer, so we can feel for their solution.
Yep. Okay.
So we have a, kind of a very B2B, SME, potentially SaaS, but not only, angle to it. And, we really realistically want to do probably 2 or 3 investments this year. Okay. And there is no mandate for us to do them or not do them. But yeah, we've got probably 50 angels by now in our syndicate on Aussie Angels.
And would you look for more? Like if there are, obviously you don't want every startup in the world coming to you for funding, but if there are people who are interested, and obviously they've got that sophisticated investor ability, you're interested in hearing from people who might want to join that?
The syndicate, yeah, definitely. So the syndicate is open on Aussie Angels. You can, easily join that. And yeah, so that's one of the things where we'll be looking to do more investment. Mm-hmm. 2, we're definitely looking for more partners. Partners that could be, anyone interested by this startup ecosystem. In Australia, we've got a very strong member base.
Yes, you do.
But also with a global angle. So at the moment, we're looking for a cloud provider. Potentially an accounting software. We have a number of already lawyers, accounting firm, as we are very lucky to be backed by Frank Law.
I met him yesterday. I've met him before, but I had lunch with him yesterday.
Radium Capital. But there's definitely room for us, for more partners who, 1, align with our value, and 2, can really bring value to our members.
Do you think you'd look at more? There's this big swing from corporations to try and get more involved and understand this space, right? They're all creating an innovation arm. They're all creating something to make sure that they don't get completely disrupted, right? It's kind of keeping a cursory eye down there just in case something looks really... Do you want to go partnering with those kind of people as well, or do you want to stay in that SME space?
So we've done in the past, and interestingly, we are in their building. In the past, we've done many things with Lendlease, for example, where we've run a prop tech event with them. So definitely, very happy to partner with corporate who, want to, either their corporate venture arm, and same thing, we've partnered with Telstra Ventures in the past, so we want to potentially invest into startup, or actually want startup to come and solve their problem. So we've done a number of those joint events with corporates. Very happy to hear about corporates. I think at the moment, we have a bit of a mandate because, we're part of the Pledge 1% movement to, encourage, I would say, kind of, sustainable innovation, not just to mention, climate tech and things like this, but if there are, large corporates, want to partner with us, with the view that they could adopt some of the technology created by your startups, very happy to hear from them. And I think what we want is to give more and more kind of global opportunities as well. We have our head office here in Sydney, but equally, we've got a capability now kind of that is pretty global, at least Asia Pacific and EMEA.
And is that why you moved back to France, to sort of help drive that global connection, if you like?
It's a combination of things. So before I moved to France, we opened an office in Europe, in Biarritz actually, back in 21.
Yep.
And because we didn't have a physical presence, I was always the one making
I know that life.
the bridge and staying up late here, to talk to the various time zones. And then I moved to France, to continue that expansion, and also for personal reasons, I suppose. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you grew up there, so why not, right? Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, I think what I like the most about what you're doing is that global feel. There's a lot of Australian-only kind of things, and I think that, you mentioned obviously the appetite this way is not as great, but I think the appetite out of Australia has definitely grown. So the fact that you are able to help founders do that, educate them, offer them potential investment, all these kind of things, and great events like last night, I think it's a really good offering. I'm excited to see what these next, like you said, we're in a funny time right now. We've come out of COVID, we've kind of got a mini recession maybe going on. No one's really sure what's happening, but I think the global thing is super exciting. And I think that gives founders an opportunity to be hedged a little bit more against the economic up and downs, particularly of Australia. So I think it's a good route to go. So thank you so much for coming on. I know that we only asked you last night, and I know that you're flying out in a couple of days. So it's so awesome to have you on.
And well done. Thank you for everything you do as well. I think we, very aligned on helping founders, grow their business, find the right person, find the right market. So
it's a rewarding thing helping founders. I think founders are they're unique individuals, right? As you said, it's not for everyone. And they need help, right? And they don't always realize they need help as much as they do. And I think to help people build something that is a dream as opposed to just something is a very rewarding thing to do. So I totally get why you like it.
And just remember, it's hard for everyone at times, everyone on social media,
dream life.
Talk about their successes and all this. But it's also, why, when you join a community, you can have those difficult conversations and, help people going through, bad spell maybe you've experienced and vice versa.
Yeah.
I'm always, kind of amazed, just having a chat, with someone who's gone through a similar situation or can sympathize, really help you kind of bounce back and and do better the next day.
I think problem shared, problem halved, that whole scenario, right? It makes you feel it's less your problem, it's just a problem as opposed to your problem, right? That's probably a key thing. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
For having me.
And I will be at the next event. You won't be, but I'll give you a call and let you know how it goes when we're here.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for watching today, guys. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next week.